Hello everyone, hope you're having a wonderful day. Today we continue exploring the love story of Toan and Tu Diem. After a sudden storm passes, can quiet days of working side by side, shared meals and simple promises bring his heart closer to remembering, and can love stay strong even when memories are still missing? If you enjoy this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next episodes. Early morning light is still soft. The yard carries the scent of wet soil from yesterday's storm. The storm came fast and passed just as quickly. Yesterday afternoon, strong winds and heavy rain forced the two of them to struggle to gather their things and brace the bathroom roof, afraid the simple house would not withstand the storm. This morning, the sky is clear again. The air is cool. The wind is light. Leaves still hold drops of water. A thin line of smoke rises from the small kitchen beside the garden. Tu Diem stands by the pot of boiling water, stirring the noodles steadily. She turns her head and looks to the side. Toan is still asleep. His breathing is slow and even. After a night of wind and rain, that rhythm feels more noticeable. The house is quiet, broken only by the bubbling pot and the sound of the hot pan. Over the past few days, Toan has worked too hard. His shirt is often soaked with sweat. His hands are rough from digging, carrying cement, and repairing the path. His shoulders ache. His back stiffens when he stands up. Tu Diem notices everything. She doesn't want to wake him early. She wants him to sleep a little longer so his body can recover. She thinks simply, even if he remembers very little right now, as long as he is safe and slowly getting stronger, that is enough. She cracks an egg into the pan. The sizzle cuts through the quiet. She adds scallions and herbs. She adjusts the broth. She wipes the wooden table clean. She sets 2 pairs of chopsticks, 2 spoons, and 2 glasses of water. Everything is placed where it's easy to reach. For someone who is tired, order helps save energy. Toan shifts and opens his eyes. He sits up, hair messy, voice still hoarse from sleep. He asks why she's up so early and what she's cooking. Tu Diem turns and gives a small smile. She tells him to wash up and eat while it's hot. Toan nods and goes right away. Tu Diem portions the noodles into bowls, pours the broth evenly, places the egg on top and adds a bit of pepper. Steam rises and stings her eyes. She straightens the chairs. She hears water running from the bathroom and lets out a quiet breath. Toan returns and sits across from her. She reminds him to eat while it's hot. He takes a bite, chews slowly, and says it's good. His tone is simple and honest. He eats steadily. Tu Diem watches his face and the way he holds his chopsticks, checking that he isn't too worn out. She reminds him to eat enough and take his medicine on time. She says there is work today, but not too much. They will do only what is solid and safe. She doesn't want him to push himself. Toan nods, eyes softening, and says he will listen. After eating, Toan sets his chopsticks down and looks at her for a moment. He says he wants to harvest with her today. Staying home alone feels empty. Being with her makes him feel better. Tu Diem pauses. She worries, remembering how much he has worked these past days. She tells him he's already tired and should rest at home. She says she'll come back early. Her voice is quiet but firm. She doesn't want an argument, only his safety. Toan shakes his head with a small smile. He says he's fine and promises to work within his limits. Tu Diem looks into his eyes and knows he means it. She nods and reminds him to wear a hat and drink water. Toan smiles more clearly. They clean up quickly. Tu Diem washes the bowls. Toan wipes the table. She prepares the basket. a small knife, water, and a towel. She reminds him to walk slowly. Together, they step onto the narrow path leading to the field. The day brightens fully, the wind is cool. The soil is damp after the rain, slippery in places. Tu Diem walks half a step ahead, glancing back at Toan. He walks steadily, without complaint. The carrot field stretches wide, green leaves sway gently. Tu Diem kneels, grips the leaves, and pulls. A carrot comes free, still coated with soil. She shows it to Toan. He laughs and pulls another one, even larger. He brushes off the dirt and hands it to her. She nods and says it will sell well. They sit close. One pulls, one trims and places carrots into the basket. Then they switch. Their pace is steady. Toan pauses now and then to stretch his back. Tu Diem doesn't rush him. She offers water when his throat is dry. They bite into a raw carrot. It's sweet and crisp. Toan says it's sweet, his face lighting up at the simple pleasure. Tu Diem smiles. Some carrots have bite marks from mice. She sets those aside, saying they can still be used if cleaned and trimmed. Toan agrees. Sweat forms on Toan's forehead. Tu Diem wipes it away. Toan holds her hand briefly, then lets go. Neither speaks. They continue working. The basket fills. When it's nearly full, Tu Diem calls for a short rest. Toan drinks water and breathes evenly. Seeing he's fine, they finish a little more and stop. They carry the basket home, rest briefly, then head to the market. The midday market is busy. Calls, voices, and engines blend together. Tu Diem spreads a tarp and arranges the carrots neatly. She calls out clearly that the carrots were pulled this morning and are sweet enough to eat raw. Customers stop, inspect, and ask the price. She answers simply. An elderly woman with poor hearing asks loudly for the price. Tu Diem leans in and speaks clearly. 20,000 per kilo. The woman buys 2 kilos. Tu Diem weighs quickly. Toan hands over the bag, takes the money and keeps it organized. Sales go steadily. Toan sits beside her, handing bags, checking the scale, keeping the display neat. He smiles, watching Tu Diem talk with customers. When it gets crowded, he helps move things faster so no one waits. Near noon, the basket is almost empty. They pack up. Toan counts the money and puts it into a small cloth pouch. Tu Diem folds the tarp. They leave the market and walk home along the familiar road. Toan no longer feels empty like he did in the morning. Tu Diem also feels lighter, knowing he went with her and still kept his strength. In the afternoon, the sunlight softens. A gentle breeze moves across the yard, carrying the scent of fresh soil after yesterday's rain. Tu Diem and Toan step back into the house. The basket is empty now. Their shirts are still damp with sweat. Toan sets the basket down on the step and sits, leaning his back against the wooden post. He exhales slowly. He is not exhausted, just letting his body slow down after a long day. Tu Diem brings him a glass of water. She tells him to drink slowly, not to rush. Toan holds the glass with both hands and takes small sips. He says that going with her today made the time pass much faster. He didn't feel the long, empty hours like when he stays home alone. Tu Diem nods and reminds him that if he feels tired, he should say it right away and not push himself. They sit a little longer, letting the sweat dry. The evening breeze slips through the porch, cool and easy. Then they stand up and continue working in the yard. Tu Diem gathers the remaining dry trash from the past days and lights it to clear the space. Toan takes the hoe and fixes the sunken part of the path left by the rain. If it stays like that, walking at night could be dangerous. They work slowly without rushing each other. When Tu Diem notices Toan breathing heavier, she offers him water and tells him to rest. But he says working together feels faster and more pleasant. While working, they talk about Tet. Toan says they should build a gate with a lock so they can sleep more peacefully at night. Tu Diem suggests planting flowers along both sides of the path. Not many, just enough to bring some color and light to the house. Toan nods and adds that raising a few chickens would be enough. Eggs in the morning and something simple to care for each day. They agree to do everything slowly, without hurry, and never beyond their strength. The path becomes even. The trash burns down to ash. The smoke fades away. The sun sinks lower in the sky. Their shadows stretch long across the newly leveled ground. Toan stands and looks back at the path, saying it feels safer to walk now in the evening. Hearing that, Tu Diem feels a weight lift from her chest. The house feels steadier after the storm. They wash their hands at the outdoor tap. The cool water soothes their skin. Tu Diem dries Toan's hands first, then her own. Toan looks at her. His eyes are calmer than in the morning, the quiet worry no longer there. Dinner is simple: hot rice, boiled vegetables, and a small portion of braised fish. Toan helps clean the vegetables and sits near the stove. The firelight warms his face. They eat slowly without turning on the television. Only the soft sound of spoons touching bowls and the wind outside. Tu Diem reminds Toan to take his medicine after the meal. He remembers and takes it right away, without needing to be reminded again. After dinner, Toan washes the lighter dishes. Tu Diem wipes the table and tidies the kitchen. Night settles in. The air grows cooler. Outside, insects begin to hum softly. Toan lies down, rubbing his lower back. Tu Diem sits beside him, fanning slowly and steadily, without speaking. After a while, Toan speaks in a low voice. He says he knows she worries about him. He hasn't remembered everything yet, but he knows she treats him very well, even in the smallest things. He says he doesn't want to make her sad anymore, and whatever he can do, he will do together with her, little by little, so she won't be alone. Tu Diem listens, her eyes filling with tears. She only says that she is here every day. Whether he remembers or not, she will care for him the same way. Toan lifts his hand and gently wipes the tears from her eyes. The movement is clumsy but sincere. They talk a little more about Tet, about hanging just a few lights to brighten the house and tidying the yard. Outside, the breeze carries the smell of ash and fresh soil. There is no more storm, no more worry about the roof. Just an ordinary evening, quiet enough to rest. Tu Diem leans her head against Toan's shoulder and says softly that this is enough. Toan squeezes her hand gently. Nothing dramatic happened today, only small moments linked together. For them, that is enough to keep moving forward together.
Sau cơn mưa bão đến rồi đi rất nhanh, buổi sáng ở trang trại trở lại yên bình. Từ Diễm lặng lẽ chuẩn bị bữa sáng để Toàn ngủ thêm sau những ngày làm việc quá sức. Họ ăn cùng nhau, chia sẻ sự quan tâm qua từng việc nhỏ. Toàn xin đi thu hoạch cùng Từ Diễm vì không muốn ở nhà một mình. Dù lo lắng cho sức khỏe của anh, cô vẫn đồng ý và luôn để ý từng bước chân của Toàn. Họ cùng nhau nhổ cà rốt, mang ra chợ bán, làm việc nhịp nhàng như một gia đình thực thụ. Buổi chiều, cả hai dọn lại sân, san đường sau mưa và nói về những dự định chuẩn bị cho Tết. Buổi tối trôi qua nhẹ nhàng với bữa cơm đơn sơ, lời hứa thì thầm và sự gắn bó bền bỉ dù ký ức chưa trọn vẹn.